I told you to apologize. What the hell are you smiling at? You want me to cut off your allowance for next month? My fabulously wealthy wife, Isabella Vance, was glaring at me, demanding I apologize. Her assistant, Caleb Jensen, stepped in with a phony attempt to mediate. Izzy, come on. His mother just died. Let go. He then turned to me, a picture of false magnanimity. You don't have to apologize, Ryan. I forgive you. Isabella's face instantly softened as she looked at him, and she beamed. See, Caleb, you're so gracious. Not like some people, so petty. He won't admit he's wrong, but I'm not going to let you suffer for it, she continued, pulling out her phone. Take this as a little something for your trouble. Right there, she Venmo'd Caleb $10,000. Oh, I couldn't possibly, Caleb said, but the cheerful notification sound gave him away. He accepted the money and shot me a triumphant look, waiting for me to fly off the handle like I always did. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Isabella, for all her family's billions, was notoriously cheap. She confiscated my entire salary from my job at her company and gave me a paltry $500 a month for all household expenses. She was just as stingy with my mom, nickel-and-diming her over everything. I used to think it was just her nature that she was like that with everyone. But ever since Caleb showed up, she'd become the soul of generosity. Designer watches, luxury cars, even a condo downtown. The gifts were endless. Every time we argued, it was the same script. She'd find some ridiculous reason to blame me and then turn it all around. Ryan, if you hadn't messed up in the first place, would I have to be spending all this money to smooth things over? Instead of reflecting on your own mistakes, you have the nerve to argue with me. I used to believe her. I actually thought she was doing it for my own good. But now, staring at the blood-soaked canvas sack on the ground, it all clicked into place. If things hadn't gone wrong, that would be my mother in there. For my own good? Don't make me laugh. It was just an excuse to justify her infatuation. As I was processing this, Isabella started in on me again. You have the gall to argue with me? If your mother hadn't bled so much and terrified Caleb, I wouldn't have had to pay him to make it right. There was again. I just shook my head, exhausted. I haven't said a word. Are you hearing things? Isabella paused, a flicker of confusion on her face as she realized I really hadn't spoken. To save face, she doubled down. We've been married for 5 years, Ryan. You think I don't know what you're thinking? I was just anticipating what you were about to say. Right? 5 years. She knew we'd been married for 5 years. And still, she sided with Caleb, listened to him, believed his every word. This time, just because my mom had accidentally used her account for a $1 purchase on Amazon, she'd listened to Caleb's suggestion to teach her a lesson by dragging her behind a car. They say when you love someone, you love everything about them. She didn't love me, so my mother's life meant nothing to her. I let out a cold laugh and started clapping slowly. You're giving yourself too much credit. I think it's a great idea. 10,000 seems a little low, though. You should probably add another zero. Seeing the look on my face, she assumed I was being sarcastic. Her brow arched, and for once, her tone softened slightly. Your mom was sick, Ryan. Caleb was just trying to put her out of her misery. She offered me a credit card. Take this. Give her a beautiful funeral. It's the least we can do. My mom has slightly high blood pressure. She's not sick. Besides, being dragged for half a mile until you die of shock and pain. How is that putting someone out of their misery? She was just saying that because she was afraid I'd press charges, trying to cover for Caleb's crime. Isabella shoved the card into my hand, expecting me to praise her for her generosity. I tossed it right back at her. No, thanks. You keep it. She still had no idea that the body in the sack was her own mother's. 2. As I stepped over the sack and headed for the door, Isabella stood there, stunned, still holding the card. What about your mother's body? You're just going to leave it? What was there to deal with? Her mother had never liked me. Once, I handed her a glass of iced tea, and she made a show of sending the glass to be sterilized. People like you who do manual labor have dirty hands, she'd said. No matter how many times you wash them, you can't scrub away the smell of poverty and dirt. Don't touch my things again, understand? She couldn't stand me, so why should I go out of my way for her? I didn't answer, just walked out without a backward glance. It wasn't until I got back to my mom's apartment and saw her safe and sound that my heart rate returned to normal. I started packing a bag for her, planning to send her out of state for a while until this blew over. Why am I suddenly leaving town? She asked, worried. This was serious, and I was afraid Isabella would manipulate her, so I gave her the short version. My mother covered her mouth in shock. That can't be right. Isabella can be a bit tight-fisted, but she cares about you. She was the one who proposed, remember? My hand paused while searching for her passport. The memories came flooding back. When I first met Isabella, she was pretending to be poor, working multiple jobs, claiming she was paying off debts to save her mother. I felt sorry for her, so I worked alongside her, and we saved up money together. Later, when she told me her mother was critically ill, I talked it over with my own mom, and we sold our house to give her the money for the treatment. She was so moved that she proposed to me. It was only after we signed the marriage license that she told me the truth. Ryan, my mom wasn't actually sick, and my family is very wealthy. I pretended to be poor because I was afraid people were only after my money. You were the only one who truly liked me for me. With you by my side, I'll never feel lost again. It was because of those good memories that I'd put up with her terrible temper for so many years. I'd always told myself her abrasive personality was the result of some childhood trauma, that she did love me, just in her own twisted way. It wasn't until recently that I found out she hadn't told me the whole story. She had run her little poverty test on 10 different guys. I was just the only one who passed. We weren't together because of love. She chose me because she thought I was a simple, honest guy who wouldn't try to get his hands on her family's fortune. And she was right. Not only did I never touch her money, but I worked my ass off at her company, bringing in new business and making her even richer. I did all the housework and handed over my paycheck without complaint. I sighed deeply, finally opening up to my mother. Mom, I've been a fool for her for 5 years. I can't do it for the rest of my life. Tears welled in her eyes. She promised to do whatever I said, just telling me to be careful. After getting my mom safely on a plane, I felt a wave of relief. But fearing Isabella would cause more trouble, I went back to that house. Normally, she'd be out all night at some club with Caleb. But this time, not only was she home early, but she was sitting at the dining table, waiting for me. An actual home-cooked meal was on the table. I told you to take care of yourself, but you're still working late to close these deals, she said, feigning concern. You must be starving. I had Maria make all your favorites. Come on, eat. I looked at the table. It was true. The dishes were all things I loved, but I thought she'd forgotten. More than once, she'd brought Caleb over and, claiming a lapse in memory, served me all of his favorite foods. It was clear now. She hadn't forgotten. She was just messing with me. I sat down but didn't pick up my fork. What do you want? Just spit it out. When someone's this nice out of the blue, they're either up to no good or feeling guilty. Isabella turned and placed a ceramic urn on the table in front of me. You left in such a hurry. Caleb was kind enough to go with me to have. Your mom. Cremated. I froze. She'd had the body cremated and still didn't know it was her own mother, the woman who had doted on her entire life. It just showed how much contempt she had for my mom that she'd overlooked every single detail. Isabella, oblivious to my thoughts, was eager for praise. This wasn't cheap, you know. This urn was hand-painted by a famous artist. It cost $200,000. I looked at it and had to stop myself from laughing. A $200,000 urn with cheap decal stickers? The ceramic was coarse and poorly made. I knew for a fact you could get the exact same one on Amazon for $16.50. I didn't bother correcting her. It wasn't my mom, so I didn't care what she used. I just wondered what my mother-in-law, a woman who used an Hermes bag to carry her groceries, would think about her final resting place being a cheap piece of junk from Amazon. When I didn't say anything, Isabella got impatient. Aren't you going to say thank you? I looked at her. You want me to thank you? She waved her hand dismissively. A verbal thank you is so meaningless. Caleb ran around all day and is completely exhausted. That 9-figure project you're about to close. Why don't you give it to him? She could have just taken it, but no, she had to go through this whole elaborate charade to butter me up first. I smiled. Sure. Isabella's face lit up. In fact, I said calmly, he can have all my projects. And my senior director title, too. When Isabella realized what I was saying, her expression soured. She thought I was being difficult. What is that supposed to mean? I shrugged. You wanted me to thank him? I'm doing exactly what you asked. Why are you unhappy? Her face hardened. I try to be reasonable with you. And you wouldn't listen, she snapped. Fine. I'm sending the email right now. You're off the team for gross misconduct. The project belongs to Caleb. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a notification. I'd been removed from the project group chat. A flood of texts from colleagues started pouring in, asking what happened. Isabella held up her phone, her voice dripping with triumph. You chose the hard way, Ryan. This is what you get. She turned to storm out, then stopped abruptly. Wait, this is my house. You're the one who's leaving. She motioned to her security guards, and they escorted me out. I brushed the dust off my clothes and calmly replied to the texts, telling everyone I was resigning. After I finished, I booked a hotel room. Then, I emailed the video from the security camera, the one showing Isabella and Caleb dragging the sack behind her car and causing my mother-in-law's death, directly to the police department. That evening, Caleb sent me a gloating text. Hey man, thanks for the project. You free tomorrow? Izzy just got me a new BMW. I'd love to take you for a spin to say thanks. I didn't reply. He could have my things, but he wouldn't enjoy them for long. Their little victory lap was about to end. It happened even faster than I expected. The next morning, I was woken up by a frantic call from Isabella. I answered, and her furious voice blasted through the speaker. Ryan Scott, you dare to skip work? Do you want me to cancel your bonus and cut your salary in half? I yawned, still half asleep. Go for it. I heard something crash on her end of the line. What kind of attitude is that? Your client is here raising hell, and Caleb and I have been dealing with your mess since before breakfast. You have a nerve to hide out and not show up. I'm warning you. You have 30 minutes to get here. If you don't ever bother coming back. That was Rich. She was the one who insisted on taking the project, and now that the client was angry, it was suddenly my fault. You must be joking, Ms. Vance. I'm just a screw-up, remember? I'm sure a man of Mr. Jensen's immense talents can handle it. I ignored her enraged screaming, hung up, and was about to go back to sleep when there was a knock on my hotel room door. Who is it? I called out. It couldn't be her, could it? She couldn't have gotten here that fast. Mr. Scott? It's the police. We'd like to ask you a few questions. I cooperated fully with their investigation. Throughout the process, Isabella kept calling. I just silenced my phone and ignored her. It wasn't until I was finished that afternoon that I saw her last text, a picture of the urn. If you don't get here, I can't guarantee how much of this will be left. I took an Uber to the office. The entire floor was silent, everyone walking on eggshells. Isabella stood with her arms crossed, scowling. The deal's dead. A little late to show up now, don't you think? She tilted her head. Oh, and there are the ashes you wanted. I looked where she was pointing. The ceramic urn was gone. In its place, on her desk, was a greasy plastic takeout container, the kind you get from a cheap Chinese place. A foul smell emanated from it. Caleb smiled sheepishly. Sorry, Ryan. I was just trying to take a picture of it, and it slipped. My bad. So, I found a new container for your mom. He made a show of getting on his knees. I'm so sorry. Please don't be mad. I'll beg for your forgiveness. Isabella pulled him up. What are you doing? You did nothing wrong. She picked up the foul container and held it out like a weapon. The broken urn cut Caleb's hand. This is the hand of a genius, Ryan. How do you plan to compensate him? That idea you had yesterday about giving him all your projects, I think, is a good start, she continued. Of course, he's injured now, so he'll need a rest. You can do the work, and he'll just put his name on it. Otherwise, she said, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper, next time his hand slips, it might not be an urn he drops. It might be your mother's ashes. Right into the toilet. Caleb's eyes lit up, but he waved his hands modestly. Oh, I couldn't possibly. It's just a small cut. It won't affect my work. I'm just not as experienced as Ryan, so I'll still need him to guide me. They were working in tandem, trying to use the ashes to blackmail me. How pathetic. Those weren't my mother's ashes. They had no leverage over me. I held up my hands. I don't agree. As for the rest, do whatever you want. Isabella seemed shocked by my defiance. Her face darkened. Fine. You said it. I'm flushing them. She walked over to the executive bathroom, opened the container, turned on the faucet, and poured some of the ashes into the sink, watching me, waiting for me to break. I just stood there, watching back. Gritting her teeth, Isabella poured more and more. Seeing I still wasn't reacting, she grew even more furious. Just then, the office doors burst open. Police! Freeze! Isabella's face went pale. The reason for my confidence seemed to dawn on her. Ryan, she seethed. You called the cops? That old hag got what she deserved. But Caleb is young. Are you trying to ruin his entire life? Even now, she was defending him. I just laughed coldly and threw a folder of photos and evidence on her desk. Don't you get it yet, Isabella? The person you killed wasn't my mother. It was yours. Now, I asked, do you still think she got what she deserved? Isabella's pupils constricted. Her hand trembled, and the last of the ashes spilled from the container into the sink, instantly washed away by the running water. For impossible, Isabella scrambled for her phone, about to text her mother. Then she saw the location tracker, which showed her mother in the Bahamas. A relieved smile spread across her face. She dropped the plastic container. She picked up one of the graphic photos from the floor and tore it to pieces. Who did you pay to Photoshop this, Ryan? It's pretty convincing. Must have cost you a fortune. She threw the shredded paper at my face. It looks like $500 a month is too generous. From now on, you get 50. Let's see what kind of trouble you can stir up with that. A collective gasp went through the office. They all thought that as the husband of the city's wealthiest heiress, I lived a life of luxury. They'd assumed my simple lifestyle was a choice. Now they knew the truth about my marriage, about my life as a kept man. Sympathetic glances were thrown my way. I ignored them, finding the whole situation absurd. 5 years of marriage, and she had never once trusted me. I didn't know how I'd survived sharing a bed with her for so long. Isabella, I said, my voice tired, even if you don't believe me, you have to believe the police. The dead woman is your mother. Why can't you accept that? Her eye twitched. You're a pathological liar, Ryan. Who knows what you did to trick them? A light bulb went off over Caleb's head. Izzy, I get it. This is his plan to get the ashes back. He knew this was a trap, so he set up a countermove to psych you out. Isabella immediately bought it. She laughed and dusted off her hands. Not a bad plan. You almost had me. Good thing I'm too smart to fall for your little games. She scoffed, not even noticing that the death certificate she was stepping on had her own mother's name printed on it. If she didn't want to believe it, that was her problem. The police arrested them both. They laid out the photos, the videos, all the evidence in front of her. She just coolly pushed it all away. The Photoshop job is excellent, and I assume the video is a deep fake? You can't fool me. The detectives, concerned about her mental state, came to talk to me. We can't get a coherent statement out of her. Does she have any other relatives? I nodded. Her grandmother and her uncle are still alive. I can contact them. I called her uncle and broke the terrible news. His voice choked with grief. Okay, I'm on my way. The old lady's health isn't good. Let's keep this from her for now. I'll talk to Isabella. Her uncle, Robert, rushed to the station that afternoon. The moment he saw me, he didn't blame me for keeping it secret. He just clapped me on the shoulder and sighed. Isabella was always spoiled. She acts without thinking. I'm so sorry she almost hurt your mother. As her uncle, I apologize on her behalf. I helped him up. He had also married into the family, and his situation wasn't much better than mine. In that whole family, he was the only one who ever treated me with a shred of respect. Let's not talk about that now, I said. The police are waiting. I led him into the precinct, where he was allowed to see Isabella. She looked surprised when he walked in. Uncle Robert, what are you doing here? You should be with Grandma. He sighed heavily. Isabella, you've gone too far this time. You've killed your own mother. Your grandmother had 2 daughters. Your aunt died young, so she only had your mother left. And now, you've taken her away too. How is she supposed to bear this? Isabella shot up from her chair. Before anyone could react, she slapped her uncle across the face. By the time the officers pulled her back, a bright red handprint was already swelling on Robert's cheek. I call you uncle out of respect for my aunt's memory. Who do you think you are? She screamed. I never blamed you for my aunt's death, and now you have the nerve to curse my mother? I swear, I will have you thrown out of this family. The Vance family had a tradition. The men married in and took the family name. In Isabella's generation, she was the only heir, so she naturally inherited everything. With her grandfather gone and her grandmother elderly, Isabella held all the power. If she wanted someone gone, no one could stop her. Robert just sighed. You can hit me, Izzy. You can throw me out. I don't care. But the dead deserve respect. Your mother is gone. You can't just flush her ashes away. Every word was a dagger. Isabella clapped her hands over her ears and shrieked. Shut up. Just shut up. You've always been so quiet. Why are you suddenly showing your true colors? She accused. I get it. Ryan put you up to this, didn't he? The two of you, the men who married in, you're conspiring to take over my family's company, aren't you? I knew it. Outsiders like you can't be trusted. You just want to latch on and bleed us dry. The minute I get out of here, I'm kicking both of you out. She was becoming more and more hysterical. If the police hadn't restrained her, she would have attacked him again. Robert looked defeated. The evidence is right in front of you. What is there to doubt? Besides, how could I possibly lie to you about something this serious? Isabella suddenly laughed. For money? You gold diggers would kill for money. What won't you do? My only mistake was trusting you, and that's why I'm in here. I suggest you tell the police the truth. I have a company to run. I don't have time to waste on your games. A detective sighed in frustration. You don't have time? Then start talking. Tell us everything about how you and Caleb Jensen conspired to murder the victim. Isabella raised an eyebrow. I've told you a dozen times. She died on her own. It had nothing to do with me, and it certainly had nothing to do with Caleb. This was all a setup by Ryan Scott. If you want to arrest someone, arrest him. He's a mastermind. The detective looked at her, utterly exasperated. We've shown you the dashcam footage, right? You've seen everything. The evidence is all there. Caleb has already confessed that you put him up to it. Why are you still lying? Isabella was unfazed. Don't think I'm stupid. I've seen this on TV shows. You're lying, saying Caleb betrayed me, just to trick me into a confession. Let me tell you, it won't work. We didn't do anything wrong, so what is there to confess? The detective slammed his hand on the table. Then how do you explain the videos? Isabella replied calmly. Ever heard of AI? Deepfake technology is incredibly advanced these days. For the right price, you can make a video of anything. You've all been duped by Ryan. Everyone was speechless. The detective turned to her uncle. Is there anyone else in her family? Robert hesitated. Her grandmother is still alive, but her health is very poor. At the mention of her grandmother, Isabella's calm demeanor shattered. Yes, my grandma can prove I'm innocent, she exclaimed. Officer, please bring my grandmother here. She would never hurt me. She'll get me out of this. The police ignored her and asked Robert to help. Sighing, he agreed to bring the frail old woman to the station. The moment Isabella saw her grandmother, her eyes filled with tears. Grandma, they're all framing me. You have to get me out of here. She was so focused on her own perceived injustice that she didn't notice how her grandmother's hair had turned completely white, how her face was a roadmap of new wrinkles. She looked as if she had aged 20 years overnight and could barely stand on her own. The old woman raised a trembling, wrinkled hand. Isabella thought her grandmother was going to comfort her, to stroke her cheek like she did when she was a little girl. She leaned in, tears in her eyes, pressing her face into the familiar hand. The next second, that frail-looking hand struck her across the face with surprising force. Isabella, who had been coddled her entire life and had never even been scolded, stumbled back, clutching her stinging cheek. She stared at her grandmother in disbelief. Grandma, why did you hit me? Her grandmother's voice was choked with sobs, tears streaming down her face. You killed my only daughter, and you threw away her ashes. Don't I have a right to hit you? 7 Isabella was stunned. Grandma, not you too. Mom is on vacation in the Bahamas. She's fine. Haven't you seen her location updates? This is obviously a conspiracy to trick you. Don't fall for it. Her grandmother looked at her with profound disappointment. Your mother spoiled you rotten. She let you become so arrogant and reckless that you destroyed her, and you destroyed yourself. This is what you've wrought. Seeing her grandmother cry, Isabella grew frantic. Grandma, believe me, I'm telling the truth. I'll show you her location right now. She started to ask the detectives for her phone back. Her grandmother, summoning a reserve of strength, cut through her granddaughter's hysterics. She pulled out a familiar smartphone. There's no need. Your mother was taken at the airport. She dropped her phone, and a stranger picked it up and took it home with them. I just got it back. If you don't believe me, look for yourself. Staring at her mother's phone, Isabella's eyes widened in horror. She shook her head, tears finally spilling over. No, Mom is just hiding. She's playing a game with you all. That's it. She looked around the room wildly. Mom, this isn't funny anymore. You can come out now. Her grandmother wiped her eyes. She was my only child. No one was allowed to hurt her. Not even you. Officer, she said, her voice firm. Please proceed according to the law. I want justice for my daughter. The officers helped the grieving old woman out of the room, leaving Isabella alone in her breakdown. The memory of her mother's screams as she was dragged behind the car finally broke through her denial. She began banging her head against the wall, over and over. How could this be? She mumbled. My mom was alive. She was on vacation, sending me beautiful pictures. She was probably picking out a gift for me right now. How could she be dead? How? Her wild eyes landed on me, and she grabbed a water glass from the table and hurled it at my head. Ryan, you knew, didn't you? You knew this whole time, and you didn't tell me. You cruel bastard. Even now, she was looking for someone else to blame. Don't you dare, I said, my voice ice cold. This is on you. You despised my mother. You ignored her, you treated her like dirt. If you had shown 1 ounce of respect, you would have realized the truth at the funeral home. Besides, I added, you never trusted me. Even if I had told you, you wouldn't have believed me. She flashed back to the funeral home. She had been so disgusted by the thought of handling her mother-in-law's arrangements that she'd pawned the whole thing off on her assistant. She remembered the young woman trying to tell her something, her voice hesitant, and how she had cut her off and berated her for bothering her with details. The memory hit her like a physical blow, and she slapped herself hard across the face. If she had just listened, if she had known it was her own mother, none of this would have happened. Isabella clutched her chest, struggling to breathe. The weight of her actions crushed her. If you had told me sooner, she gasped, I never would have done those things. So now she admits they were wrong? Where was his conscience before? Really, Isabella? You seemed pretty confident before. You said my mom was sick and Caleb was just helping her find peace. Why the change of heart? You dumped her ashes into a $16 urn from Amazon and pretended it cost a fortune. Did you think I wouldn't notice? I just couldn't be bothered to call you out on another one of your pathetic lies. You used your own mother's ashes to try and blackmail me, to pave the way for your little pet, Caleb. When you were pouring her remains down the drain, bit by bit, did you think you were doing something wrong then? No, I said, stepping closer. You didn't. You're only sad now because it was your mother. It was someone you loved. If it had been anyone else, you would have been celebrating. You wouldn't have felt a shred of guilt. Isabella beat her fists against her head, completely broken. Stop it. Please, just stop talking. Her emotional state was too volatile, so I was asked to leave. Her hearing was postponed. What was left of her mother's ashes was later recovered from the plumbing, where her grandmother saw the muddy remains. She clutched her chest and collapsed. I didn't want to get involved, but her uncle, Robert, had always been decent to me. He said the dead deserved peace and that all past grievances should be set aside. He had a point. If it hadn't been for his sister, my mother would be dead. So I put my own anger aside and helped him with the funeral arrangements. After learning the truth, Isabella shut down completely, becoming catatonic. The police couldn't get anything out of her, so they focused their interrogation on Caleb. At first, he stuck to the story that it was an accident. But even a child knows the danger of being dragged behind a car. At a minimum, he was facing a charge of manslaughter, and given the horrific nature of the crime, he could be looking at life in prison. The reality of his situation finally hit him, and he changed his tune fast. It was Isabella. She forced me to do it. She hated her mother-in-law. When the old woman made that $1 mistake on her Amazon account, Isabella was convinced she was trying to steal from her and wanted to teach her a lesson. So I hired a couple of guys to grab her and put her in the sack, he stammered. But we honestly didn't mean to kill her, officer. We were just trying to scare her. The detective slammed the table. This was a fatal act, and you dismiss it as a light-hearted lesson. Caleb lowered his head. It wasn't my idea. I told Isabella not to do it, that someone could get killed. But she wouldn't listen. She threatened me, said if I didn't do it, she'd find someone who would. You know, she's my boss. Jobs are hard to find. I felt like I had no choice. He put on a pitiful act, shifting all the blame onto Isabella. The detective stared at him. Then what about the $10,000 Isabella sent you? Caleb explained. That was after when Ryan showed up. She said his mother's blood had scared me, and since Ryan wouldn't apologize, she was compensating me. For once, he told the absolute truth, and nobody believed him. You're lying, the detective snapped. That's the most ridiculous story I've ever heard. You kill someone, and she just sends you 10 grand as a thank you gift. Our background check shows that Isabella Vance is an extreme penny pincher. She never treats anyone to dinner, never buys gifts. You are the sole exception. She's given you gifts worth a fortune, and she recently handed you one of her company's most important projects. I suggest you start telling the truth. We have all the evidence we need. You've already missed your chance to confess. This is your only opportunity for a reduced sentence. Think very carefully. Caleb was stunned. But I am telling the truth. Isabella likes me. That's why she bought me those things. Is it a crime to give someone a gift now? The detective scoffed. Still not going to come clean? No one is stupid enough to just give you all that money. The truth is, she hired you to kill her mother-in-law, but you messed up and killed her own mother by mistake. As for the project, you were blackmailing her with what you knew, and to keep you quiet, she was willing to steal it from her own husband and give it to you. That, the detective concluded, is the truth. In a twisted way, their theory made perfect sense. They just hadn't factored in that Isabella Vance was completely insane. Caleb was panicking now. No, that's not it. Isabella gave me money because she has a crush on me. I'm a good person. I would never kill anyone. As he was rambling, something the detective said seemed to finally register. He froze. Wait, what did you say? Who died? The detective replied flatly. The victim was Isabella Vance's mother. Your boss has already confessed. Stop lying, admit your guilt, and maybe you'll get a lighter sentence. Initially, the police had ruled the death an accident. But Isabella's bizarre $10,000 payment to Caleb raised a red flag. When they dug into her past and confirmed her reputation as a miser, her extravagant gifts to Caleb seemed highly suspicious. I never imagined the case would take such a turn. Of course, Isabella could have fought the new narrative, but she was so consumed with guilt over her mother's death that she simply accepted the charges as a form of penance. On the day of her mother's funeral, the police, in a gesture of humanity, allowed her to attend from a distance, under guard. The once proud, untouchable Isabella Vance was a wreck. Her hair was matted, her face gone. She clutched her mother's portrait so tightly that her handcuffs drew blood at her wrists, but she didn't let go. Throughout the service, people pointed and whispered. Her grandmother was so overcome with grief, she could barely stand. Isabella just kept sobbing that she was sorry over and over. But her mother was gone and could no longer fix the messes she made. After the funeral, I sat across from her in a visitation room. Her eyes were swollen shut. Her voice was a raw whisper, and I could still feel the faint embers of her hatred for me. I didn't care anymore. I pushed the divorce papers across the table. Isabella, if you didn't love me, you could have just said so. We could have separated. You didn't have to hurt me or my family to get back at me. Have you never heard the phrase, amicable split? Her eyes, red and raw, welled up again. She picked up the papers, her voice thick with defiance. Don't be so self-righteous. Everything you did, it was all for the Vance family money, wasn't it? I finally snapped. Isabella, don't you forget, you were the one who lied to me. I had no idea about your family's wealth. I married you for you, not your money. Something flickered in her eyes, but she quickly looked down. People change, Ryan. You used to be so simple, so good. But once you were exposed to money, to the real world, you changed. Even now, after everything, I was still the villain in her story. I let out a bitter laugh. You're the liar, Isabella. Don't think I don't know. I was just one of the guys you tested. You're the one who's deceitful. Just because your own heart is dirty doesn't mean everyone else's is. Her hand trembled. She flipped open the divorce agreement, still defiant. Spare me the lecture. You're just greedy. That's why you're divorcing me at my lowest point. Well, I have news for you. Even if I go to prison, you won't get a single penny of the Vance fortune. She scanned the document, looking for my list of demands. Instead, she found the clause stating that I was walking away with nothing. She read it again, then flipped through all the pages, her disbelief growing. This wasn't the scenario she had imagined. Her eyes turned red, and with a sudden cry, she ripped the papers to shreds. Only then, at the very end, did she finally believe me. Ryan, I was wrong, she sobbed. You never changed. It was me. I listened to that monster Caleb, and I tested you. I was so wrong. You know, my father, he married my mother for her money. He tried to kill us both. Ever since then, I've been so afraid that any man who got close to me would be just like him. She grabbed my hand, her grip desperate. I was wrong. Please, can you forgive me just this once? I swear it will never happen again. I'll be good. I'll get out early for good behavior. When I get out, we can get back together, okay? We'll have kids, 3, maybe 5. We'll have a real life. I looked at the tears streaming down her face and felt nothing. I would never be fooled by her tears again. No, Isabella, you don't trust in marriage. You shouldn't have lied to me, and you shouldn't have hurt me. Some people are better off alone. I pulled my hand away, stood up, and walked out, leaving her behind with the sound of her own agonizing wails.